Hello friend, welcome or welcome back to the channel. I'm Crystal, aka The Wholesome Witch, and welcome to another Coffee Coven chat. Today we are getting into 7 lessons I've learned about my practice as a witch in her 40s. So my practice has changed a lot over the years, and if I was to sit down with like my teenage self or my 20-year-old self or my 30-year-old self, we would have a very different conversation than we're going to have today about what it means to be a witch and about what a magical practice can encompass and how it can affect your life. And I mean, none of the earlier versions of me are wrong. They were just at a different stage in life, in their magical journey, different life experience. And I think that's one of the really special things about a witchcraft practice or a magical practice is it's going to adapt and change and evolve with you throughout the years. And just disclaimer, not to say if you practice a different way than I'm talking about now, it's wrong. It's absolutely not. These are just lessons that I've learned in my own journey and how my own path has changed along the way. But if you don't practice the same as me or not all of the lessons I've learned resonate with you, that's totally fine. This is just from my perspective. So I thought it would be just fun today to share 7 of those biggest lessons that have found me along the way. And I would love it if you would grab a comfy seat, your favorite beverage. I have my coffee as per usual, and let's chat about it. So lesson number 1, my practice has gotten much simpler and much more meaningful. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So in the beginning, it was fresh, it was new. I so much wanted to be part of the world I was slowly discovering, and I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to have everything, all the books, all the tools. I wanted to do all the long elaborate rituals. I wanted to look the part. There was a lot of witchy pop culture in the 90s. Very much wanted it to become part of my identity, which is all great. But as I said, it was the 90s, and a lot of the education available as someone from a small city who didn't have a lot of access, it was a lot of ceremonial magic, a lot of Wiccan books in my one bookshop that had, 1 or 2 shelves, probably 2 shelves. That's what, shaped my practice in the beginning. And I really did dive in. I was very consistent, got together a few things that I could afford, some crystals, some candles, things like this from my job money. And I was practicing multiple times a week. I had a little altar set up in my room. And you're in high school, you have the time. You have schoolwork, you have maybe a job, but you have the time. And then, you become an adult and life happens. And I kept reading so much all the time. I've always been a very big reader. But the practicing got less consistent. I wasn't practicing 3, 4, 5 times a week anymore. It was much less frequent. My ritual work was still, I was still trying to lean into the very long, more elaborate rituals and trying to have things set up in certain ways and things like this. And over the years, as I grew, as I experienced things, I, had breaks in my practice like everybody does. And it shifted and evolved and started to be focused a lot more on house magic and eventually kitchen witchery and eventually very simple daily magical practices, which is the bulk of my practice today. Not to say I won't do longer rituals, I will, but everything is just much more simplified. And I'll do a ritual with just a candle in my journal. I don't need a lot of tools. I don't feel that I need 1 or 2 hours every time I do a ritual. I like to incorporate simple daily acts of magic into my life, and it's become a much more meaningful practice than when I was younger and thought I had to have all the things and things had to be a certain way and I had to follow rituals from books to a T or they wouldn't work. Everything is just simplified. It's a lot more meaningful because it's part of my life every single day. There are things I do every single day instead of just on festivals or on full moons or when there was some goal I really, really wanted and I would do a certain ritual around that. And this, it's been years, 30-year long evolution, and I just became more comfortable with my practice. I became more comfortable with myself and what resonated with me. I became more confident in my practice and in myself as a human being. I evolved and changed a lot over the years and had much, much more life experience come across my way than I did when I was a teenager or in my 20s, and that affects your practice in a big way as well. So yeah, today things are simple, things are meaningful. It's part of my daily life, my identity, and I'm really happy with where I am right now in my practice. Actually, It's good. It feeds me, it's consistent, and it elevates my existence on many different levels. Lesson 2, consistency has become much more important than perfection or doing things a certain way. So in earlier days, I thought I needed the perfect altar where everything was set up just so. I needed all the certain tools. I needed to have as many crystals and herbs as I could. I felt bad if I didn't know what moon phase we were in, or if I missed like a full moon ritual. I thought, I'm not doing this well, or I'm not witchy enough, or I was just kind of failing or not dedicated enough in some fashion. And like any book that I had, if I was doing stuff out of them, I thought it had to be exactly like the book. There was no improvising. There was no deterring from what I was reading. I thought it had to be that, and that was the end of it, period. But when I practiced in that way, my practice was a lot less consistent than it is now. It wasn't part of my daily life, because in the beginning, I would basically do things when I was doing them and then forget about it. And it's not like that anymore at all. It's just so woven and integrated into my life that the consistency is just there. It's not hard to be consistent anymore. It's not me having to make time to weave my practice in anymore, like make time for an hour-long ritual, or wanting to do something and then realizing I was missing an ingredient and thinking, oh, can't do it now. I've learned over the years ways that work for me to include my practice in every day in ways that sometimes don't take any extra time at all. I've learned that I can improvise, and my practice has become very organic and intuitive. And having a consistent practice is much more effective, much more meaningful and enriching to my life than it was when I was trying to do everything a certain way, or the way that I thought it should be done. Lesson number 3, nature became the place I learned the most. So I mentioned I've always loved books. Most of my witchy education has come from books. Books are always the thing I reach for first if I want to learn something new. And books have given me so much. They've given me so much. And practicing in general has given me so much. And you learn as you go, right? You learn what works, what doesn't. You learn how to adapt. You learn what resonates. But some of my best lessons have come through the last, decade, when I have more and more actually tuned into nature and actually observed what was happening outside my door. So I've always been interested in the seasonal festivals and the wheel of the year, but previously it was more like, oh, it's a festival day, so I'm going to do something. Whereas now I'm constantly observing the changes in the seasons as we move throughout the year. And I anticipate the festivals, and I love every single one of them. Of course, I have my favorites, but it's more of a daily presence and acknowledging and learning so much that everything moves in cycles, and the earth is wise and much wiser than we are. And we should really be, taking a page and flowing with the seasons, moving with the seasons. I'll talk more about the seasons in a moment, but just being present and really paying attention, noticing the changing of the trees, noticing the new flowers popping up in my area, noticing the air and how it feels, and the subtle shifts that happen as we transition through seasons. And just acknowledging that nature has an effect on our life every single day. We wouldn't exist without it. It nourishes us, it grounds us, it gives us life. And we should be appreciating that every single day. And the appreciation isn't something I had before, which meant my connection with nature wasn't nearly what it is today. I go outside for my morning walk every day, and I don't take my earbuds, I don't take my phone. It's just me, and I'm observing and I'm noticing all the changes in the area and taking the time to just connect. So I highly recommend taking a moment each day to just acknowledge, connect with nature. I always do like an earth blessing in the morning as well, like a thanks. And in my life, I try my best to, treat nature, the earth, the environment with the respect it deserves. And I try to minimize my footprint as much as I can. And cultivating that connection has been a real game changer in my practice overall. Lesson number 4, confidence changed and affected my practice in more ways than any spell or ritual could do. So in my younger days, I would have thought things like my confidence would grow once I knew more, or once I had more tools, once I memorized all the correspondences, or once I could make my own rituals and not look at books anymore, or learning more techniques and traditions, or being able to do everything correctly or properly, quote unquote, without constantly referencing my books. But confidence in your practice really comes from, one, yes, practicing. It's a practice. So the more you do, the more you know, the more you grow. But it also comes from just trusting yourself and trusting your choices, believing in your workings, trusting and listening to your intuition, and trusting that your path is yours and it's not going to look like anyone else's. And it's okay if your ritual doesn't look exactly like the book that you took it from or were inspired by. You can improvise, you can adapt, you can change things. And the more you lean into trusting yourself to make those decisions, to make those choices, and believe in yourself. Because without belief, you're going to have a hard time having your spells and rituals manifest in any significant way. So cultivating that trust within yourself is really what's going to give you more confidence in your practice and in your workings. If you're not trusting yourself, then you're not believing that what you're doing is going to work. And then you have a whole other thing of doing spells and rituals and workings that never really come to fruition. So listening to the intuition, trusting your choices, going with your gut. If something feels right to do in a ritual, do it. If there's an ingredient you really want to add it. And the more you practice in that manner, the more confident you're going to get, the more your workings will manifest in the way that you desire them to. And all of that is going to grow your confidence. And that can all happen before you feel like you know enough, or before you've read every book or learned about all the different paths that you'd like to learn about, because there's so much to learn and we're all lifelong students. But you can gain that confidence and that trust and continue learning. It doesn't have to be, the confidence will come once you think you know everything, or once you think you know enough, because there's always so much more to learn. So whatever level you're at on your path, wherever you might be, whatever you might be learning, trust your path, trust your choices, and trust that they're all leading you in the right direction. And trust that your spiritual practice, your magical practice, however that looks for you, is going to help you get to where you want to be. It's going to help you become the person you want to become. And having that kind of confidence is going to ripple out into all other areas of your life as well. Lesson number 5, I stopped trying to do things the right way. There's so many amazing traditions and paths one can take and learn about when it comes to magical practice, witchcraft practice, and there can be a lot of pressure to do things a certain way, to celebrate the moon phases a certain way, do rituals a certain way, have certain tools and resources, and these kinds of things are going to change greatly depending on who you talk to. And if you find a tradition, a single path that you know is the right one for you, and you want to dedicate to that one fully and do everything just as, is laid out in that certain tradition, then that is absolutely okay. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just going through things from my own experience. And I never did find a certain tradition that resonated with me fully. So at some point I realized I didn't have to. I could take what resonated with me and create a practice that was all my own and that was meaningful for me, and that I really only needed my practice to feel authentic to me and to feel right for me. And once I kind of realized that and gave myself permission to not have to do things a certain way, it kind of changed everything. It allowed me to trust myself more, going back to our confidence building in the other point. It allowed me to evolve my practice and use my intuition. And it allowed me to eventually not care what other people may or may think about my practice. So, I know my way of practice is not for everybody. And I'm sure there's lots of practitioners out there that would think my practice isn't witchy enough, quote unquote, because there are certain things I don't do. And I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me. I don't really feel I need to be witchy enough for anyone but myself. And I have felt over the years at points where I was too witchy for some people, not witchy enough for others. So kind of felt like an in-between. I'm very practical, but I'm also pretty woo-woo, depending on, your scale of woo-woo-ness. If that's not a word at all, but well, let's go with it. I believe in science, but I also believe in the spirit realm. I believe in fairies. I believe in ghosts. I believe in creatures some may say are mythological and, from stories and folklore but never real. I believe that there are things in our environment that we can't see but we can feel. I believe that there's so much on Earth and in the ocean and in the universe that the human species just doesn't know about yet. And some things we'll never know about, never understand. Doesn't mean they're not there, doesn't mean they're not real. So I've often felt like I've been caught in kind of an in-between space, that whole not witchy enough, too witchy area in the middle. And I know I'm not alone. I know there are lots of you out there who feel the same. So if you've ever felt like that, do leave a comment, let me know. Too witchy for some, not witchy enough for others. Yeah, I think there's a whole space in there that is filled with more people than just me. And now I'm okay with this. It doesn't bother me if I'm too witchy or not witchy enough. I'm the right amount of witchiness for me. And that's really all that matters. And I'm comfortable in my beliefs. I'm comfortable in my practice and the way that I practice. And I know that for me, it is meaningful and it has done wonders for my spiritual wellness and has made me feel a lot more connected, a lot more intuitive, and it works for me. And as long as your practice works for you, that's what matters. It's not what anyone else thinks or any pressures you may have put on yourself. So if you're still in a place where you're worrying about whether or not you're doing things properly or the right way, or whether or not you're doing enough, we're going to stop that. We're going to take a stand today and not do that anymore. I mean, as long as you're not hurting anyone and you're not being culturally disrespectful to, others, then you do you. You make your magic. You shape your practice, develop your practice in a way that feels right for you, in a way that works for you, and a way that feeds you on a holistic level. And just be comfortable in knowing that your practice is going to be as unique and special and magical as you are. Lesson number 6. I can't do 6 because I'm holding my coffee. Living seasonally has become exceedingly important to me. And this kind of ties in with my earlier lesson on connecting with nature. So I love working with moon phases. I love working with astrology energy. And I'm always aware. I'm aware of the phase of the moon we're going through. And I'm aware of at least key astrological energies that are happening around us. I find them useful for guidance in my, not just my spiritual practice, but just in my life. I find them useful to know what energies we're being surrounded by at any given time. But the thing that has shaped my practice the most over the years has been living with the seasons, observing them, celebrating them, noticing them, the shifts and changes that happen in our environment outside, like every single day. I always have enjoyed the seasonal festivals and the Wheel of the Year, and FYI, a discussion on the Wheel of the Year is coming because I reference it so much, and I know there's some interest in me going deeper into just what it is and what the festivals are. So stay tuned for that if you're curious, because I know I mention it quite a lot. So yeah, I've always been interested in it, but I used to celebrate them, the seasonal festivals, as just like a fun thing to do, sure, to honor the change in nature, but it was just a day. While I do honor the festival days, the seasons in general are important to me past just the day that the festival happens. And I used to not remember them all either. Like there was 8 of them, and I would always remember my favorite ones, of course, like the autumn equinox, Mabon, and Samhain, Halloween, because, well, Halloween's always been my favorite holiday, even when I was little, before I knew what Samhain was. And autumn has always been my favorite season. And then Yule, of course, because in my younger days, especially because it was so close to Christmas, and it was another meaningful point at that time of year. But now I remember all of them religiously, and I do something for all of them. There's just always something to look forward to with the seasons. There's always something to be observed, and I feel like I'm sitting really weird right now. All 4 seasons and all 8 of the festivals have something special and unique to share with us. And this is something that I've not always appreciated, because it was always like, you always dread your least favorite season, right? At this point, seasonal living is so much a part of my life and my practice that I look forward to all the seasons for different reasons, and I have found a way to just find joy in all of them, because like I said, they all have things that bring us something different. They all have their different energies and special things to share that can uplift us and bring joy to our life. Even like if it's the winter and you absolutely hate the winter and you get the winter blues, living seasonally and finding those things within that season that really do lift you up, and the moments within the season that you look forward to, and just observing the changes. Guys, if you just notice the transitional shifts from season to season, they are amazing. They're incredible. They will leave you in awe if you allow yourself to just notice them and appreciate them, and allow the cycles to influence your own routines and rhythms that you have in your day-to-day life. And I mean, there's certain things we can't change from season to season. We all need to go to work. We all need to, maybe do things with the kids or care for your families, whatever it might be. But we can allow the seasons to help shift our routines and rhythms, even in small ways, that can just make going through every season more meaningful and make your life feel like it's much more in flow, and like you're not constantly fighting against something, but you're working with something. Because I know we tend to fight winter and just try to live the exact same as we might live in the spring or in the summer, and it's not the exact same. It's not the same energy. Little shifts to like your morning routine or your evening routine, or just little shifts about how you move through your day that better reflects the season and is in alignment with the season, will make your life flow and your practice that much more meaningful. And it may even help you beat those winter blues, or it may help you be more positive and uplifted as we're moving through a season that you don't enjoy. Just food for thought. And lesson number seven, I realized that my magical practice was not separate from my life. And this is probably one of the biggest ones, because, practicing over the years and when I was younger, it was always, I would do my rituals, I would do my practice, whatever it may have been, and then I would go and live my life. However, now my practice is my life. It doesn't happen only when I do rituals. It happens throughout my day. As I live my life, my practice is there. It's part of it. My practice happens when I'm making breakfast, or when I'm going for my morning walk, or when I'm having a journal session, or even when I am just sitting at my desk working. The older I've gotten and the more woven my practice has become into my everyday life, just had me realizing that magic isn't something you step into. It's not something you do during a full moon or when you just really want something great to come into your life. It's something that's a part of you all the time, and it's something that can be and should be a part of your life on a daily basis, even in the smallest of ways. And I don't want that thought to overwhelm you, because when it becomes part of your life in that way, it's not overwhelming. And that's one of the great things about having, a simple, consistent daily practice. It's not something that is going to stress you out. It's not something that you feel pressure around or overwhelmed by. And I know in earlier times, I would have felt pressure. I would have felt pressure to fit in my practice in certain ways, make the time to do a ritual. And if I wasn't able to make the time, I felt like I had failed. And then, guess I gotta wait till the next full moon, and then nothing would happen for a month. But having that belief at the forefront of your mind that your practice is just part of your life every day, and it's not something that only happens during ritual, can really help with how consistent you are and how much you show up for yourself in that way. If you're at a point right now where it is inconsistent and you do only practice on, say, certain moon phases or what have you, and consistency has kind of eluded you, or you don't even know kind of how to make it consistent, especially, maybe you're busy, maybe you have a lot going on. Taking a few minutes, looking at your day and kind of figuring out where organically magical elements might be added, and then just start doing one every day. and then maybe you'll add 2, and then 3, and then it kind of just becomes something that is with you all the time, and it becomes something that you organically do throughout your day. Kind of having that mindset shift where magic is not happening outside of you, and it's not happening only during ritual, but it's within you and it's happening throughout your entire day. And even just developing presence and mindfulness in your day can help with this. And just coming around to thinking in a way that a more meaningful and consistent magical practice can come from simply paying attention to the life you're already living. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Hi guys, sorry, my camera cut out and I kind of lost my entire train of thought, and my cat came and now she has replaced my coffee. Anyways, what I believe I was saying is that yes, having that presence and mindfulness and connection and awareness that your magic isn't separate from you, it's not separate from your everyday life, it's part of your everyday life. And having that mindset shift is just going to enrich your life and deepen your connection to your spiritual self, to your higher self, to the universe, and to the magic that's within you all the time. And living a magical life is really paying attention to the life you're already living every single day, not trying to create something outside yourself. And it's really being confident and secure and just knowing that your magic is always present in your life and you can choose to access it and appreciate it and work with it as often as you want to and in whatever way feels right for you. So I'm going to end it there. I hope that that final thought kind of attached to what I was talking about before my camera cut out. I'll see when I go to edit. Hopefully it all still makes sense. But I would love if you would leave me a comment and let me know whether you've been practicing for just 6 days or 6 weeks or 6+ years. What's one lesson that you have learned throughout your journey on this magical path? And I always love to read your comments. I love to hear from you. And if you did enjoy the video, please do like and subscribe. It really helps me. It helps the channel grow. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to link those couple of videos I mentioned about daily practical magic down below. I hope that was in the part before I cut the video off. I don't know if it was. I talked about having those daily practices where you just organically weave in your spiritual practice and how that really makes it a consistent part of your day and doesn't have to take extra time. Anyway, I'm going to link those down below because daily practical magic is something that can really just connect you to your practice and keep you consistent and actually make it a part of your everyday life that you're aware of and working with. I'm going to also link my new book that is on pre-order now. It is called This Is Your Year, and it's all about manifesting with the Wheel of the Year and living with the seasons. And I'll link my monthly spellbook subscription down below and my socials in case you want to find me elsewhere. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. And I'm going to be seeing you very, very soon.